All right, speaking of policy, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie suspended his presidential campaign yesterday after failing to gain traction among GOP primary voters. Now, Christie levied the harshest attacks on former President Donald Trump of any of the Republican candidates this cycle. And he also showed himself out of step with conservative voters due to his comments on life, marriage, and the issues of LGBTQ. Now, I think the reason he got out, he didn't have any traction, no political support because of his bad policies. I think this tells us a lot about where Republican voters are today. Joining me now to discuss this, Meg Kilgannon, Senior Fellow for Education Studies here at the Family Research Council. She served in the Department of Education during the Trump administration. Meg, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
So let's talk about Chris Christie making his exit. No big surprise. But was there a connection to his lack of political support to his weak policy positions?
I think so. I mean, most of the American people don't think that we should sexually mutilate minors, that it's not possible to be born in the wrong body and that you cannot change your sex, right? And so there's no reason to let children make those kinds of decisions, even if some parents are going along with that. So, wrong there he is. And then on life, it's really been sad. He had the reputation when he was governor of New Jersey of being a pro-life governor, right? And but he certainly has lost that credential now with his comments during this campaign, as have others. And so, he was not good on issues that Americans care about. And, the simple fact of the matter is that former President Trump is incredibly popular right now with the American people. And no one is going to be able to overtake him at this point. And so I guess the donors class that is interested in stopping President Trump from being on the ticket have to rethink some of their people that they're funding, and Governor Christie is one of the first casualties.
Well, I mean, you kind of went down the list of where positions he took. He was never a bastion of conservatism when he was governor of New Jersey, but he's been dismissive of the SAFE Act, something we've been working on across the country. 22 states have those, that protects children from these experimental surgeries and drugs. Parents ought to have a right to be able to, allow their children to be mutilated, so on and so forth. But most recently was his position on marriage, his evolving position on marriage. Play clip number 8.
I don't have any objection to it any longer. In the end, I think I've been convinced. And, that's part of being a thinking, breathing human being, I hope, is that you can hold certain opinions at one time and hold them genuinely, and I did. But over time, look, this past week or two, Pope Francis is now allowing blessings of same-sex couples. Even the church is changing.
We go back to the 70s and 80s, early 80s, where, Ronald Reagan being pro-life was like an anomaly among Republican presidential candidates. Right. In the 2016 cycles of the 17 candidates, only one was not pro-life. That's decided among Republican voters. We're also seeing the issue of marriage. Even though the courts have ruled, you still see the Republicans holding to the understanding of natural marriage. They're pro-life. They're parental rights. They support that. And now this transgender thing. And of course, I didn't mention that Chris Christie attacked Ron DeSantis over Disney and his position of holding them accountable for getting involved in their in the state's policies in promoting their wokeness. I mean, so he really was on the wrong side of everything.
He was, and I guess the people who are funding his campaign support those positions. But I'm gratified to be reassured, as we both already knew, the American people are not there, right? They are not in agreement with these pretty radical positions on these policies.
Well,
it's just not going to play well with the electorate.
No, and I think he probably has plenty of time now to go down to Disney, and he can ride on that little ride. It's a small world after all. You know, those who have these views that are inconsistent with the party platform and Republican voters, it's a small world, after all. Isn't that right?
Let's hope it gets smaller.
Well, that's up to the voters. And that's why it's so important that they turn out and vote with an educated, cast an educated vote. Meg Kilgannon, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Tony.